Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to talk about the latest episode of Obi Wan Kenobi, Part 4, creatively titled Episode 4. And as it starts, Obi-Wan wakes up on a stretcher as he's being taken to a bacta tank, where I guess he tries to heal up a little bit, but he has some flashbacks of the fight with Vader while he's in there, and he comes out early, and not a very effective healing session. Anyway, Leia, who still seems like a character in a fanfic film because the kid can't act, is interrogated by Reva. Obi-Wan and the lady spy, whose name I forget, set out to rescue Leia from Mustafar, which, of course, although I always do it, is not to be confused with Mufasa. And they have a conversation at one point where she tells him that he has to come to terms with the past. Then when they arrive at the base, she has trouble getting through security, but manages to, which, I mean, okay, but why isn't her treachery on record by now? The fact that she offed her whole squadron and disappeared. If it was done by someone else and she survived, then she would have been in custody probably, so how is she there? And if she's not in custody and it was someone else, why didn't she report it? Like, I mean, come on. Unless what happened to her squadron just hasn't been discovered yet, which, okay, maybe. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan is apparently swimming with a breather underwater and enters the fortress from there after the lady opens the door. And he proceeds to attempt to rescue Leia by making his way to the detention level through quarters that, like the original Death Star quarters, apparently don't have security cameras, and which are patrolled instead by drones. And again, I'm getting serious episode 4 vibes, but you know, the other one. They even use the same comlink on the counter shot when she gets discovered at the wrong station and has to abandon the comlink for a couple of minutes. Reva thinks that Leia knows something of the Resistance, but of course she doesn't. And for some reason, Reva can't read her mind, which may be because of Leia being force sensitive, which for the moment doesn't trip any triggers in Reva's mind, which I don't understand that. But anyway, they take her to be tortured for no reason because she doesn't know anything. Although I guess they think she does, by the slowest torture mechanism machine ever. Like, they put her on this thing and she's screaming, and Reva's like, okay, I'm gonna turn it on. She pushes the button and it goes, all right, seriously, you're gonna get tortured. They move closer. Okay, you can tell me because I'm gonna torture you. And she's screaming all the time. It's like, really? They're drawing it out so that someone can rescue her. It's kind of silly. Anyway, Obi-Wan finds a tomb full of Jedi on display, which was a little chilling. It included a youngling. So the lady friend calls Reva away from torturing Leia, and Reva seems to know immediately that she's lying somehow. I guess because of how Obi-Wan escaped her intended custody back on the planet. And when they go to haul her off, after Reva walks out, she takes out 2 stormtroopers in armor by hand. Like, she gets she gets a blaster away from one of them and ends up using it to put at least one of them down. But before that, she fights at least one of them in hand-to-hand combat while they're in armor. And like, what? Like, she grabs under their helmet and, I don't know, gets the drop on them somehow. And I don't know. It wasn't believable to me. Anyway, Obi-Wan and Leia, who Obi-Wan has managed to get to and rescue, then barely escape a flooding corridor after a lightsaber versus blaster fight that cracks an underwater window. And then they proceed to escape the base with the help of their friends in snow speeders, who enter and exit through non-existent doors and force fields at the base, and against 0 tractor beam and 0 ability of Reva to even hold one of them down, apparently. Like, they show up and just fly right into this hangar bay with there's no force field preventing them from getting in. There's no doors. They just fly right in because apparently no one saw them coming on radar or with their eyeballs, and start shooting up the joint so that Obi-Wan, Leia, and the lady can escape. And then they don't have a tractor beam that they use on them like they did on the Death Star. And Reva doesn't even try to hold back the departing speeder. Now, to be fair, she's under attack. But, like, the thing is shooting at her, and she's just using her lightsaber to deflect the blast, but she doesn't try to use the force to bring it down or throw it away. I mean, it's a small thing, a ship. Why doesn't she do that? I don't know. She does end up hurling something at one of the speeders and it makes an explosion, but it's dumb. Anyway, when Vader shows up, none too pleased at the fact that they escaped, she tells him that she's tracking them, which apparently she's doing by means of something that she attached or installed on Lola, which is Leia's little bot. And that's where the episode ends. I mean, I don't know. This is the second episode out of 4 where they basically repeated the main plot of A New Hope, which they like to do a lot, apparently, because they did it in The Force Awakens. And they included one element from whichever one of the original trilogy that there was a tracker on the Millennium Falcon in. And I don't know how it is that this is the case, but I did not realize that this whole series was going to be the Leia show, because, I mean, I knew she was going to be in it, but I figured we'd see her for a couple of episodes, maybe a scene or two, but that the main plot would go elsewhere. And here we are with 2 episodes left, and they've only now just rescued her a second time from Empire custody. This whole show has been rescuing Leia from Empire custody. The whole show has been the original Star Wars. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you take it as its own thing and don't think about the original Star Wars movie plot, it's a good Star Wars story, but it's not an Obi Wan Kenobi story, which, I mean, it's fine. I don't care that it's not hyper focused on him and that it's a wider story that he's in, but why did they call it Obi Wan Kenobi? They shouldn't have called it that. And, you know, I thought this show was going to be about Luke, at least to some degree. And it isn't at all, which, I mean, it would have been a minefield of canon for them to do that, to do too much with it anyway. But they didn't do themselves any favors related to canon by having Obi-Wan and Leia have all this extensive involvement with each other, which she seems not to know anything about in the original Star Wars movie. So it's like, I don't know what made them go down this path. You know, the anti-woke crowd will say that they wanted to tell a Whammon story, so they made it about Leia, but I don't know. Maybe. If so, that was a mistake. Because it's, you know, rescuing Luke would not have been so on the nose as a retread of the original film. But it would have been hard to set that up, right? Because he's a nobody. But I just don't know why they went this route. Why? Okay, let's say they're going to make it about her. Why did they make it about having to rescue her from the Empire? Like, we saw that story. Oh, God. So, I don't know. I'm enjoying it, but because it's, you know, Ewan McGregor is great. Darth Vader, the James Earl Jones voice that apparently was, in fact, manipulated by a computer, which is fine. But, like, you know, it's kind of like pee-pee caca no substance. It's not, I don't know. Maybe it'll show us give us some sort of insight into Obi-Wan and how he originally dealt with, you know, the regrets or whatever other emotions he was having after what happened with Anakin, and, you know, give us a little bit of insight into what Vader was like in the years before A New Hope. And that's cool, but, like, I don't know. Did we need 6 hours for that? You know, like, couldn't they have just made like an hour-and-a-half special? I don't understand. I don't know. And it's weird because, like, I don't know why they went with 10 years later. Because, I mean, I suppose this life that Obi-Wan's been living could be a life that he's been living for 10 years, but it seems like the immediate aftermath of Revenge of the Sith. And that's how it feels. But it's not. It's 10 years later. So we have to believe that he's been doing this for 10 years. We have to believe that in 10 years, they got nowhere near him. They couldn't find him for 10 years. We have to believe that he never heard of Darth Vader being active for 10 years. Why? Also, they could include a 10-year-old Leia? I really hope that's not why. But anyway, I mean, there's not much more to say. It's entertaining, but it's got problems, and I don't know. I don't know that it adds all that much to the mythos, to the lore. But maybe I'll feel differently after next episode or after the final episode. We'll have to see. I'll be back with my reviews as those episodes are released. For now, I'm going to get out of here. And as always, I say, may the force be with you.